Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 163.
Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, where it is all about whitetail deer hunting tips, techniques, and the stories so you can become a more successful whitetail deer hunter. And now your host, Bruce Hutchin.
We're heading to Cody, Wyoming today to visit with Jordan Budd. Jordan works with Best of the West, where she's in charge of the field and post-production side of the TV show. Little background on Jordan. Right after high school, she got hooked up with a website called selffilm.com, which consists of articles and videos based on helping fellow hunters and self-filmers. Along the way, she started her college degree, but that got interrupted by Cabela's as they offered her a position on the pro staff team, which she accepted in helping some product development and doing educational seminars. That all changed when he took a freelancing job in 2014 with Best of the West. And as they say, folks, the rest is history. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because we're going to connect with Jordan Budd up in Cody, Wyoming. She's a ranching gal that started out in the Sand Hills area of Nebraska, then headed over to Cody. And ladies and gentlemen, she's the glue, she's the creativity behind Best of the West. And I think most of you will know that show. And Jordan, just welcome to the show.
Hey, my pleasure, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Let's just kick it off. And you mentioned in the warm-up selffilm.com kind of get you started in the business. And the reason I want to start there, Jordan, is a lot of people say, how do you get in the outdoor media business? How do you get in the outdoor business? How I really have a passion for it. How do I do it? So take it away, Jordan.
Well, yeah, I think I started like a lot of people, especially in the filming side of things, where, I just picked up a camera and started filming stuff and got a computer and started putting the stuff together, but didn't really have an outlet for it. It was just kind of putting it on Facebook and such. And there was a company that I had seen on Facebook that was just getting started, and it was called Self Film. And so I was always just really interactive with them. Just when they post questions on Facebook, I answered them. When they asked to send stuff in, I answered them. And just was always asking them questions about gear upgrades and such. And it's four guys that started this website. They all have full-time jobs, and this is just something that's fun for them to do. And they asked me if I would like to be part of the group. So I was added on as a fifth, and I got to go to the Archery Trade Association show for a couple of years, and we do some product reviews and stuff for our sponsors. And that introduced me to the hunting and the industry side of things.
And listeners, the Archery Trade Association, a.k.a. ATA, is probably the preeminent archery trade show in North America every year. Yep,
it is. And it's something to go to. If you can ever get a chance to go to it, it's unreal.
Let's stay right on this vein. So we went from selffilm.com and you did some things. You got a college degree, and then somebody came along, freshman in college, and said something about Cabela's. How does that work out?
Yep. So I had some friends that I just grew up 3 hours from the headquarters there in Sydney, where corporate office is, and there was a couple of guys that came up and shot some does off of our ranch, and they worked for Cabela's, and they knew I was big into hunting, and it was a big passion of mine. So when I'm trying to think of exactly how this happened, when they saw me get on with self-film and I started, putting articles out, and they started seeing my videos, they were looking for a new pro staffer that was closer to, right in the Nebraska area, pretty close to where corporate was. So they sent me an email and asked me if I'd be interested in doing kind of a pro staff program with them, testing equipment, having my input put into it, talking with people in the stores. And I said, sure, that's something I definitely want to do. So it'll be my third year with them this year, and really looking forward to it.
So listeners, especially all you guys and gals out there say, how do I? Jordan Budd figured out, how do I get into the outdoor industry? She took an opportunity. She became relational with selffilm.com, she was responsive, and she built a relationship with the guys there, and they invited her on. And she did it, while you're going to college or even before college. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. And, I've just always thought seizing opportunities as they arise, like that's, you have to take those opportunities as they arise, because if you can't, or you don't want to, or it's not ideal at the time, there's a good chance that those opportunities aren't going to, arise again. And just taking an opportunity and taking a little chance, it can get you a long way, because it just relationships build, and you start meeting new people, and you get your network going, and it just kind of all builds up from there.
Hey, Jordan, if somebody's really got a passion for this and is serious about pursuing a career, how would they get in touch with you on social media?
I've got a Facebook page. It's just my personal page. It's not a public one. It's just Jordan and Bud is the name, and then you can follow me on Instagram at jordan.budhunting, and those are basically my two main platforms.
So you don't use Twitter?
I don't. I haven't really been active on Twitter lately.
Works for me.
Yeah.
So let's spin it down to you were working for Cabela's and doing some work and pro staff with them, and then 2014, 2 years ago, a freelance filming job with Best of the West TV out of Cody, Wyoming, and it's syndicated, and it's a top show. It's a long-range show. I mean, they will teach you how to shoot, and it's a great show. Let's talk about how that developed and how you got involved in that. Okay.
We have some really good friends just personally called the Preferts. They're out of Texas. They have, ranch and rodeo equipment, all the blue bucking chutes and stuff like that you see at rodeos. That's all Prefert manufacturing. And those guys are really good friends of ours. They came up and hunted with us. And one year, and it was actually in the spring of 2014, I went to the Denver Sportsman's Expo, and I was walking around just kind of killing some time, and I saw the Best of the West booth set up. And I know that the Preferts had their show at the time, and Best of the West was a sponsor of theirs. So I called Travis Prefert and said, hey, do we know anybody? Is there anybody that I can talk to at this Best of the West booth? And he said, sure, go talk to Joe Cunningham. So I went and talked to Joe, and we just kind of hit it off and connected through social media and just kind of kept in touch. And he was seeing some of the videos that I was putting out, and he said, hey, if we ever have an opening, I'd really like to try to set you up as a videographer for us. And, just kind of thinking, oh, okay, you're just trying to be nice. But in August that fall, they called me and said, hey, we're looking for somebody, and you were referred to us. So is there any way you can come out and film with us this fall? So I ended up taking the semester of college off and kind of taking that chance, coming out and filming, and it just kind of stuck on.
Wow. And so 2015, fast forward, you're full-time with the company now?
Yep, I am. I just came on full-time with them in September of this previous year.
And so you live in Cody now.
I do.
Okay. And so the family still has a ranch back in Nebraska?
Yep, we do.
That's great. So let's go back to the family and sit around the kitchen table, and who imparted the hunting tradition into you?
My dad, no doubtedly, or undoubtedly. He's a hunter as well. He doesn't hunt as much now. I think just because he kind of likes watching us and the time factor of it. But he would come out to Wyoming and hunt elk every year, and so I always had that, especially for just being in Wyoming. Always wanted to be here, always wanted to go out and do what he was doing. And he got me started into shooting little 22 shooting rabbits, going out and hunting coyotes, and he kind of showed me the ropes. And then for whatever reason, I just was never afraid to just go out and do it on my own. I would just go. I don't know, and a lot of that has to do with where I grew up. On the ranch there, I was really fortunate that I could just walk out the back door and, I could go hunt rabbits and I could go shoot coyotes and do things like that. And, you're not on public ground, you know where you're at all the time. And, but I would just go and start and learn lessons and try to make myself better and just kind of go with it.
So let's talk about whitetails. The show is Whitetail Rendezvous. And I know there is some whitetails out there in Nebraska. And let's talk about your first whitetail hunt and your harvest and when you put them on the ground.
Yeah, so my first whitetail, and with a bow, actually, when I was in high school, I was a sophomore when I shot him, and as a freshman, I got into my first bow and just kind of, was reading articles and talking to people and listening to people and just kind of tried to figure out what exactly, I don't know how to say this, like how to hunt whitetails where I was. Because, we got hardwood river bottoms. You go up on top and you can do some spot and stalking type stuff. But the ideal thing for me was, or the iconic to whitetails is shooting a whitetail out of a tree stand with a bow. So that's what I wanted to do. That's what I set out to do. And I'd been watching this deer for a couple of weeks. I'd seen him come in and out of this area. I had two trail cameras set up in a certain area. I'd seen him come out of there, a half a dozen times at least, and while I was sitting in the tree stand, and I never got a picture of him. But it was November 5th, and he was dogging a doe, and I'd seen him go down right past that tree stand the night or the morning before, and I'm thinking, okay, I just have to get in that stand, and he's going to come right by, and that's going to be it. And it pretty much happened just like that. I just got in the tree stand the next morning and waited for him, and they came in front of me about 40 yards. I shot him, and I was pretty much hooked on archery ever since.
The rest, as they say, is history.
Exactly.
Well, and you had the buck had home field advantage, but you did have ranch field advantage. Exactly.
That's very true. Even before I was old enough to get a deer tag, I was watching those deer, what they do, how they react to things, and at time that hard work put in and time just watching and observing them, it really pays off in the end.
Let's talk about, we talked a little bit about Best and West and everything, but just give 3 or 5 snippets about field and post-production of the hunts that you're doing right now. We're swinging it back to the career in the outdoor industry. Share just a little bit on that.
Okay. Basically, I'm on the hunts. I am the videographer, the infield producer. I'm behind the camera all the time. I go with the guys. We go on hunts. This last year, I did 4 bighorn sheep hunts and a couple of deer hunts, an elk hunt, and a couple of whitetail hunts in the east. And then, now is kind of, we're getting towards bear season, which will be fun. We've got a couple bear hunts planned. And then now, when it's kind of the off season, is when you're sitting at the desk in front of the computer and you're taking all this footage that you've taken on these hunts and you're putting them together and making them into the story and putting them out on television.
So tell the listeners, how many hours of film do you have to get a 30-minute show?
We figure right around 3 hours of solid footage will get you your 30-minute show, which is it's like 21 and a half minutes of actual runtime.
So, folks, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of filming, and then you can got to come back, and you got to do the post-production work. How much time is involved in that? So you're out in the field, you get the show in the can, and now we're back, in post-production.
Putting them together, yep. I figure a week or a week and a half of just, really being able to get into the computer and just go to completely finish it out, with color correction and audio and graphics and interviews and all that stuff to get it put together. I figure right around in there, a solid week or a week and a half.
Let's go down this trail a little bit about education of up-and-coming hunters. I know that's one of the three things you wanted to bring out in the show. So why don't you take a few minutes and share with the listeners?
Mm-hmm. So, I think for children, and especially in my case, what I've had the most experience with this last couple of years especially is getting women into the outdoors, because with this Cabela's thing, I've really been able to talk to more women and hear their stories and kind of hear how they got into hunting, whether it was, and most of them, they didn't do it growing up. Most of them, they got into it later with, their boyfriend taking them out or just a friend taking them out. They didn't have anybody to go talk to. It doesn't mean they didn't want to do it, when they were younger. There wasn't any real resources available for them to go to and to talk about these things. Whereas, me, I had my dad to go to and ask questions for, and just kind of part of myself, I wasn't afraid to just go out by myself and just totally do the solo thing and just kind of learn as things came. And I realized, it's not comfortable for everybody to do. So especially with this Cabela's deal, we're really trying to reach out to women and just anybody who want to get into this industry, or they want to get into this sport, if you will, but they just don't feel comfortable enough just going and talk to somebody. And we really want to be, I want to be that person that if they have any questions with gear or, hunting styles or anything like that they can come and ask us, and we not feel stupid about asking a question, because we've all been there. We've all asked that question at one time or another.
Thanks for sharing that. And so, ladies, if you're listening to the show someplace in North America, Jordan's going to share about 3 to 5 things that she's learned herself that has helped her, feel real comfortable. And I know she came off a ranch, and everybody's not going to come off a ranch, but share some insights that'll help the gal listeners to become comfortable in the outdoors.
Mm-hmm. This is a tough one, but I'm not trying to say to try to fit in with the guys, but man, Bruce, I honestly don't know how to answer this very well.
Okay, Jordan, that's fine. And if you think it's something, just while we're on the show, I'm sure the ladies would like to know. And you did have the ranch field advantage. There's no question about it. So let's move on to you're doing some hunts in some crazy places and fun places. Let's talk about the eastern whitetail hunt you did last fall.
Okay, so we went to Kansas this year, was one of them, and we were so close to right in the rut, but they were still in the time where they were just nocturnal. You weren't seeing them during the daylight hours, and we sat in the stand for I think 9 days and just couldn't make it happen. But that's going to happen, and especially when we've only got a certain amount of time allotted to get this stuff done. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
And where else did you hunt?
And then we went to Missouri this year as well. We went to eastern Missouri and ended up shooting a really good deer back there with Joe Cunningham, and that show is actually already aired this year, but it was a great time.
So let's talk about how you're setting up. Was it a tree stand hunt with archery, or was it a rifle hunt?
Yep, it was a crossbow hunt. It was a crossbow hunt. Yeah, we've got a new scope coming out that we're mounting on crossbows for more of the longer range type stuff. And so we were promoting that and field testing that and putting it to the test, and it was pretty good. I think we shot him at like 57 yards, I think.
Wow, because of my age and what I've pounded my body through. I shoot a crossbow now. I shoot an Excalibur, so that's
cool. Yep.
Yeah. It's a recurve on a rail. That's what I call it, with a trigger. So.
Yep, exactly.
But it's a 60-yard. I can 8-inch. It's tighter than 8-inch pipe plate at 60 yards. I mean, it's a great tool for people like myself or young people, and I'm looking for somebody to get on the show. If you know of anybody that really knows crossbows, I'd love to have them on the show.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do with that.
Sure. So let's talk about you're in a tree stand, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And so
we were actually in a box blind.
Okay, yeah. Box blind. Well, how do you have to set up to get the film? Let's go inside the box blind, and you got the shooter, and you got the filmer yourself. How do you set that up? You catch everything.
So setup's really tricky with trying to film, and not only especially in a box blind, or you don't have that much room to move around, especially to have a tripod in, and especially in that area, they were going to come out all around us. It wasn't just, there was a certain trail that they come out on. It was kind of a food source, and they were going to be all around us. So we needed to be able to keep mobile while not, banging stuff around while we were trying to, completely turn around and whatnot. So I went freehand on the camera with that one when we were in when we were in that box blind. And it gets tricky, especially if you're doing some spot and stock and stuff. As a camera person, you've always got to be over their shoulder, because you might only be 6 inches on one side of them, but what you're looking at and what the hunter is looking at they differ. They differ quite a bit. And if there's a deer walking through that he says, he stops him, and the cameraman doesn't have him on camera, but the hunter does, then you're kind of in a bind there if you're going to get the shot on camera.
So there's a lot of work and a lot of communication, coordination, because, when Mr. Wonderful comes in front or whatever deer, it doesn't have to be Mr. Wonderful. It's the targeted, animal that you're looking for. And, you're 6 inches away, but still the field of view is completely different.
Yep. Yeah, it's completely different. So, like you said, a lot of communication comes into play, and it just helps. It helps as well that, for your camera person to have kind of a hunting background, so they kind of know what they can get away with, and kind of know what to look for, so they can anticipate these things happening before they do.
Great. And let's talk about now Western style of hunting. A lot, of Whitetail Rendezvous listeners are from, east of the Mississippi, and let's just kind of give them a primer about hunting in the West.
Okay. So hunting in the West, it's so cool because even at home, in Nebraska, we've got, whitetail and mule deer both, and it's set up to where you can not only, you can hunt whitetails out of a tree stand or out of a blind, or you can go in the open and spot and stalk them. And that's really where I got into spot and stalking, and I totally ran with it from there, because it's just more my style. I don't have a ton of patience to sit in a tree stand, especially when I can't see very far. So if I can get out on the ground and see those animals coming and get around and get out in front of them, it makes it a lot more exciting for me, and that's just my kind of style of hunting anyways. I kind of like to be mobile, but out here in the West, there's you're not really restricted to how you can hunt these animals. You can take Eastern, sitting in a tree stand or just sitting in a blind and sitting and waiting, over a water hole or something out here. Or you can totally just pick up the rifle or the bow and just start walking and try to be slow and easy and get in range of them without them knowing that you're there, or do a spot and stalk type thing like I like to do, sit on a high point where you can see a long ways and trust, use your optics. Basically, I've heard a lot of people say this, you use your glass instead of your legs, or use your eyes instead of your legs, and find these animals and try to observe and see what they're doing, and get them in bedded up in a spot where you think you can get close enough within range, whatever that may be, and just try to stalk in close and beat the animal's eyes and nose, and just try to get within the distance you need.
Now, just like in the 40-acre woodlot of the east, moon phases, dawn, dusk, availability of food, weather conditions, they all connect in the west too. I live in Colorado. I've been blessed to hunt most of North America, and there's two things I'd like to bring out, and for the whitetail hunters, become a long-distance scouter. What does that mean to you? Watching them from a distance, and I mean a mile, 3/4 of a mile or a mile. If you can find an animal, and especially early season, a lot of times is where they're going to be the most patternable. Early season mule deer up in the high country, they're really patternable. Bear season that's going to come in here. Spring bears are usually very patternable as well. If you can, if you have a couple of days to just watch them and see what they do, they're so patternable that, they're probably going to be hitting that water source at around that time of day, pretty close to around that time of day, or going out to their food source at that time of day, or they're going to be pretty close to it. And if you can watch an animal from, quite a distance where they have no idea that you're there, when it comes time to sneak in, whether it be in your tree stand or trying to spot and stalk them or just sneak in closer, you've just studied that animal, and that you just kind of have, at that point, you kind of have the upper hand, besides just moving in right away and trying to get a shot off. So whether you're hunting 40 acres, in Wisconsin, Iowa, or any place down south in New England, long distance scouting, you got to need good optics and set up, take your truck or however you want to do it and sit up. And before you even go into your target area where Mr. Wonderful or the buck on your hit list or the doe that you want for the freezer, spend some time long distance scouting. And I'm just going to say this: I will guarantee you'll see more bucks or game than you've ever had before, just by, and we're talking half a mile, 3/4 mile, up to a mile. So optics are important, right, Jordan? Yeah, that's optics. Optics is very important. So with that, Jordan, I can hardly believe it, but my counter's saying we're at the end of the show. So take a minute or two and give a shout out to whoever you want. Okay. First shout out is to Cabela's for giving me the opportunity to be a part of their team and to go do these things to try to better the industry. Cryptek Clothing, big shout out to them, as well as Spot Hog Sight. They make a great bow sight, and just the team itself filmed, and all the team back at Best of the West. They've really helped me grow and become a better hunter, and I just can't wait to see what the future is going to hold for us. Well, Jordan Budd, thank you so much for being on Whitetail Rendezvous, and this was a great show, and congratulations for all your hard work and determination, and most of all, your passion for hunting. Thank you. Yep, thanks for having me on. As your host at Whitetail Rendezvous, I want to thank each and every one of you for spending your time with us today. I look forward to sharing with you in the next episode more whitetail hunting tips, techniques, and stories. Until then, keep the sun at your back, the wind in your face, and always be patient.
If you have any tips, comments, or suggestions, or what we can do to improve, because we're here to serve you, let us know. Thanks for listening to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast at www.whitetailrendezvous.com.